This is where it all began. Bikes like this Penton changed everything. John Penton gave Americans a new way to ride. 5 a.m. this morning, my Uncle Austin texted me John Penton's eulogy, and I was shocked. Not that he had passed, he was 100 years old, but that it had been a week since he had passed, and nobody in the industry was talking about it. Not a whisper, not a word. None of our 22 people that work here knew anything about it. I was shocked, because John Penton wasn't just a rider, he was a legend. My obsession with motorcycles started back in 1968 when I was just 3 years old. My dad brought home a Briggs & Stratton powered hardtail mini bike. We lived in the concrete jungle of Clifton, New Jersey, just 20 miles from the New York City skyline. My big brother Ray was 5. He got to ride it solo. I rode on the tank with my dad, but that little mini bike lit a fire in me that's still burning today. A few years later, Christmas of 1972, I unwrapped my first real motorcycle, a 1973 Yamaha GT80. Around the same time, I discovered dirt bike motocross action in Cycle World. My mom called the supermarket magazine rack the library because every trip I'd go straight there, reading them cover to cover. She'd have to drag me out. We didn't have money to buy many, so each issue I did get was like gold, and I read it cover to cover till they were tattered. It was in those magazines that I saw my first Penton. I turned the page, and there it was, the Berkshire 100. Bright red, chrome wheels, white graphics, black leather tank strap, Metzler knobbies, fiberglass tank. It was the most beautiful motorcycle I had ever seen. It shined like a diamond. The hair stood up on the back of my neck and in my arms. I was just a kid on a Yamaha 80, and here was a bike, a full-size motorcycle that looked like a dream machine, something only the rich kids could afford, and I wanted one more than anything. Today, later in the day around lunchtime, a friend came by the shop to pick up a brand new Stark motorcycle, his third this year. He rides a Husqvarna 250 that Junior and I sold him 3 years ago, so I figured he'd know the name John Penton. When I told him John had passed away, he looked at me and said, "Who is John Penton?" I couldn't believe it. The phone rang, we got distracted, and I walked away, thinking to myself, wow, here's a 53-year-old pro-level motocrosser, a guy who's been riding for 3 decades, and he didn't know. He didn't know John. Maybe it's an age thing. I'm almost 10 years older than him. Maybe the Penton name faded after the brand was sold to KTM. But that moment made me realize, if we don't tell John's story, people will forget, and we can't let that happen. John Alfred Penton was born on August 19th, 1925 in Amherst, Ohio. He grew up on a farm, discovered an old 1914 Harley-Davidson in a barn, and taught himself to ride. After serving our country as a merchant marine in the U.S. Navy during World War II, he returned home. He bought a Harley Knucklehead and started racing. In 1948, he entered the grueling Jack Pine 500-mile Enduro. A year later, he finished second on a BSA B33. In 1959, he set a transcontinental record, New York to Los Angeles, in just 52 hours and 11 minutes on a BMW R69S. Between 1962 and 70, he represented the United States 7 times in the International Six-Stage Trial, the Olympics of motorcycling. But John was more than just a racer. He was an innovator. In 1968, after Husqvarna declined to build the bike he envisioned, he went on to KTM in Austria. He invested $6,000 of his own money, about $55,000 in today's dollars. The result was Penton motorcycles. Lightweight, nimble, built for competition, and over the next decade, more than 25,000 were sold in the United States, laying the foundation for KTM's off-road empire. And ironically, KTM ended up rescuing Husqvarna, the company that turned him down decades later when they were struggling, and now KTM owns the Husqvarna brand. But John didn't stop with motorcycles. He worked with Alpine Stars to create high-point boots and gear, black leather boots with chrome shin guards, timeless classics that are still the hot setup for riding vintage bikes today. I still have several pairs from the 70s and 80s that I wear in my videos, and when I went to the Penguin Road Racing School this year at 60 years old to earn my road racing license and do my first race, I wore an Alpine Stars leather suit. 50 years later, I was still protected by gear that existed because of John Penton. Most riders today don't realize that the Alpine Stars boots, jackets, and other clothing they wear trace back to John's vision. It was around the same time I saw the movie On Any Sunday. That film opened my eyes to everything. Desert racing, flat track, motocross, hill climbs, road racing, trail riding with friends. It showed me worlds I didn't even know existed, and I wanted to try them all. 50 years later, I'm still chasing that inspiration. At 60, I completed my first road race after training with the Penguin Road Racing School. And right there in that movie, in those international 6-day trial sequences, was John Penton himself. Even when he wasn't the star, his presence inspired me. In 1998, John was inducted into the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame. His life was captured in the documentary, The John Penton Story, and his influence lives on today in KTM, Husqvarna, Gas, and Penton, 4 legendary brands tied to one man's vision. As his son Jack said in his eulogy, John Penton arrived at the finish line this morning after a long and amazing life. I am happy he passed peacefully after enjoying his 100th birthday with so many that loved him and appreciated his contributions to our lives. And as his local newspaper in Ohio, the Chronicle-Telegram, wrote, he finished his last race quietly Sunday. If I have one regret, it's that I never stopped to tell John how much he inspired me. For years, I saw him at the Mid-Ohio AMA Vintage Days. He was always there, close to his home, smiling, surrounded by friends, and restored Pentons at his Penton booth. I saw him at 95, 96, 97 years old, still talking motorcycles, still radiating joy, but I never introduced myself. I never said thank you. Maybe he didn't know who I was, but I wish I had told him how much and how positive an impact his creations had on me. So maybe this video is my chance to finally do that. John, thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for giving so much to this industry. Thank you for creating dreams that still live on in all of us. John Penton lived 100 years, but he changed motorcycling forever. John Penton lived 100 years and changed motorcycling forever. So let's do our part. Get out today, get off the couch, ride your bike, call a friend who hasn't ridden for a while, do something to better motorcycling, teach a kid how to ride. Let's keep the legacy alive. Get out and ride for John today. If more people in the world were like John Penton, the world would be a much better place.
God bless America.
Rest in peace, John Penton. Your legacy rides on.